Welcome to Tomorrow's World Today, a show dedicated to the discovery of innovation and cutting-edge technology. We showcase the latest developments from the greatest companies and smartest people in the world. Tomorrow's ideas are out there, and through our journey of inspiration, we will uncover the technology of the future. This is Inventionland World Headquarters. Here now is George Davison.
It's becoming more clear that zero-emission hydrogen fuel cells are what's going to be powering our cars in the future. And over the last few years, Toyota's been heavily involved in fuel cell development. They're going to be rolling out the second-generation version of their flagship hydrogen-powered car. It's called the Mirai. They're also building hydrogen-powered big rigs that are in operation in the port of LA. There's even a boat called the Energy Observer that's sailing around the world by a fuel cell. Also, megawatt generation stations are being built, part of the growing infrastructure that's begun to spread throughout California and eventually the United States and the rest of the world. It's all a part of what they're calling the Hydrogen Society, a future where fuel cells power the world while emitting zero pollution. I've got to find out all about that, so I'm sending in Tamara to investigate. She's going to go to LA and uncover what Toyota's been up to.
I'm here at the Toyota Research and Development Center in Gardena, California, where they have been working on fuel cell technology for years. If something happens with the development of hydrogen technology, it happens inside this building. Toyota is going to connect us with some amazing engineers who are going to break it all down for us. All right, I'm going to head inside and get started. Hey, I'm Tamara. You must be Chris.
Hey, Tamara. Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much for taking some time out of your work to talk to me today and get me started on my journey.
No, absolutely. I'm glad to help.
So I have to admit, I'm kind of amazed that hydrogen can be used for a car, a truck, a boat.
It can be used in a lot of different applications to replace a lot of the technology that we already have today.
All right, so let's talk fuel cell basics. Can you kind of break down how it works?
The fuel cell itself is powered by hydrogen, which is stored in a tank in the car. And then that also takes oxygen from the air and then through a chemical reaction produces electricity and water.
Gotcha. All right, thank you so much for giving me the basics. Now I want to see this baby in action.
No, absolutely. So we arranged a drive for you with Jackie, who's one of our senior engineers. She's going to take you out in one of these vehicles and show you all about it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
No, glad to help.
Hey Tamara, it's so good to finally meet you.
I know, we've had so many phone conversations.
We have.
But I am glad that you are here because I need your help figuring out how to drive this thing. It's so different than anything I've driven before.
It really is, and I'm so excited to show you the 2021 Toyota Mirai.
All right, well, let's take her for a spin.
Let's do it.
Okay, so I'm gonna need some serious newbie lessons from you because I'm not really a car person. I'm a tech person, but not a car person. So where do I start?
It's really easy to get her started. Just put your foot on the brake pedal and push the start button.
Okay. All right, and then?
And then that's it. You see that green light that says ready?
Yeah.
That means it's on and ready to drive.
It's so quiet.
It is. Well, it's an electric vehicle.
That's true. It really makes me wish that I had had this when my daughter was a baby.
I wouldn't wake anyone up with this.
Right. All right, I'm excited to get out on the road. Oh my God, this is like the perfect drive.
It is, right? The quintessential California drive in a zero-emission vehicle.
I think about taking this car on vacation because it has the range to do so, right?
Yeah, this second generation Mirai, we're targeting over 400 miles of range. And, you know, the exciting part of that being it takes less than 5 minutes to refill at a hydrogen station.
So I'm seeing a lot going on the energy monitor. I'm not used to seeing that. So can you kind of describe what's happening here?
Yeah, absolutely. The fuel cell electric vehicle is an electric vehicle, but instead of plugging it in and recharging it, you refill it with hydrogen. So the hydrogen comes in from the tanks, the oxygen comes in just from the atmosphere, from the intake system. The two combine and form water, and a byproduct of that is the electricity that then goes to the electric motor and drives the vehicle. So the second generation it's lower, it's wider, and it's longer.
Is that why it feels like it's got that nice hugging the road kind of thing going on?
It does. Anyone that is a car enthusiast can really attest to how much fun a rear-wheel drive vehicle is.
When you're talking about fuel cell electric vehicles, they're definitely a part of the picture of California's goals for zero emissions in 2030, right?
Absolutely, and they're a huge part of what we call our portfolio of approach of solutions. We have our own company goals, which we call Environmental Challenge 2050, where we want to reduce the CO2 emissions of our fleet by 90% compared to our 2010 CO2 emissions.
That's amazing to think about because, I'm driving, the ocean's on one side, we've got beautiful rolling hills, and it just makes me think about the future and where we're going to be and the fact that I want this pristine environment to survive.
Exactly, and the only way to get to this huge reduction in CO2 emissions of the fleet is to move towards electrification. We wanted to present to the world with the second generation what a sexy, fun, sporty fuel cell vehicle could look like. So in the United States, we produce more than 10 million metric tons of hydrogen per year domestically. And that's the partnership that we're looking to collaborate with industrial gas companies, academia, government, to build out that infrastructure to ensure that anywhere a customer wants to drive a Mirai, they have a dispenser available to them.
Oh, wow, check out the view.
Oh my gosh, gorgeous. That's perfect, right?
Seriously, that was so much fun.
I'm so glad you liked it.
You never know what your experience is going to be like when you drive a different car. And on one hand, it was so smooth, but on the other hand, when we took those corners, that was nice.
Well, that's why it's called the Mirai. The Mirai in Japanese means the future, and this is exactly a depiction of Toyota's future of electrification and of driving.
So the next thing I'm curious about, you said Mirai means future. So when we talk about vehicles, we're not just talking about, your everyday passenger vehicle, we're also talking about trucks, right?
That's right. Another advantage of fuel cells is that they're scalable, which means that they can be small enough to power a phone or large enough to power a building or anything in between. You just have to add more fuel cells to the stack to create as much power as you need. And as long as you're supplying hydrogen, you can generate as much power as is needed. So what we did back in 2017 is we took two of the Mirai fuel cell systems, we put them into a Class 8 semi, and we demonstrated that we can generate enough all-electric power to move 80,000 pounds around the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach. And that's what we're doing now. We're building 10 more trucks to demonstrate that and try to get more diesel semis off the road.
Well, I think you just figured out the next leg of my trip.
Perfect.
So, do you think you could set me up with taking a look at a big rig?
Absolutely. What are you doing tomorrow?
I think I now know. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
You too. Bye.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Tamara.
I had such a good time in the Mirai that I have come back for more.
That's great. I'm really glad that you enjoyed it.
Well, Jackie and I were talking about different applications for fuel cells, so trucks.
So this is the next big thing that we're working on. So we're taking two fuel cell systems that you found in that Mirai and integrating it and upscaling it into a truck big rig application.
Well, can you kind of take me on a tour of what I'm looking at here?
Yeah, so starting at the back of the truck, we've removed all the panels so that you can see actually what's going on underneath.
Wait, hold on, you don't normally drive around this way?
No, this is definitely not. So what we have back here, these are all our hydrogen tanks. So we have 6 tanks that are stacked on top of each other that contain all the hydrogen.
How far can you go on 6 tanks?
On this design, about 300 plus miles.
Oh, cool. Okay, because one of the things that Jackie and I talked about was the importance of range, and especially when you're talking about trucks and hauls and all that, it's clearly really important.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely a big area that we're trying to work on and improve.
And here we have...
So this is our high voltage battery. So like any hybrid vehicle or fuel cell hybrid vehicle, there's always a battery of some sort to help fill in the gaps during driving.
Okay, yeah, the other thing that she mentioned was that if you were only using a battery, that it would just be way too much weight.
That's right.
Gotcha. And speaking of getting the hydrogen in.
Yeah, so these are our fuel nozzles here. So it's a very similar process to filling up a gas car.
Okay, cool. What else do we have going on?
So moving forward, so this component here is the core of the vehicle. So this is the fuel cell stack. So there's one here and the second one's on the opposite side of the vehicle. And so that takes hydrogen from the tanks along with oxygen from the air and converts it to electricity and water. The water is expelled backwards through some exhaust pipes, and the electricity, along with the electricity from the battery, comes up to the front. There's a bunch of power electronics up here that filters the electricity and prepares it before it's shot backwards to an electric motor, which then powers the wheels.
Very cool. All right, well, now that I have seen the inside, I want to get outside and go for a ride.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have Danny, our driver, who's going to show you all about driving this thing on the road.
Fantastic, because I got a lot of questions.
Oh, perfect.
Hey, I'm Tamara.
Hi, I'm Danny.
Chris said you'd be up for giving me a ride?
That's right, hop in.
Awesome, thanks. Hi,
Hello.
thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming.
I've been exploring this world of hydrogen fuel cell electric vehicles, and we've been talking about all the different applications. So obviously I looked at the Mirai, and now I'm looking at big rigs.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible that we're in a vehicle that can tow 80,000 pounds. And for me, it's important because, you know, these vehicles tend to pollute, like in areas around the ports. And, you know, this is part of a solution. And specifically when we talk about greenhouse gas emissions and you know, most of that, it'll have a very big impact on, you know, the environment.
Absolutely. Now you've been doing this for a while now. So do you find that the ride actually feels different when you're in this kind of truck as opposed to a conventional truck?
Yeah, I think the ride is pleasant. As you can see, we're having a decent conversation in a diesel truck. It's really noisy. I tend to smell like diesel at the end of the day, and or exhaust. And here it's like it's really pleasant.
Definitely. It's very calm. All right, well, thank you so much. Looks like we have hit my stop. I know you're gonna fuel up with some hydrogen, and my next part of this journey actually involves talking with some folks on a boat that's being powered by hydrogen fuel cells.
Wow, that sounds awesome.
Very cool. All right, thanks again. Take care.
Thank you.
About to check in with the Energy Observer, a hydrogen fuel cell powered vessel that's been traveling around the world showcasing alternative energy sources. Ahoy, Energy Observer! My team and I have so many questions for you.
Hi there, thanks for having me.
Tell us about your mission. Where have you been and what are you doing?
Energy Observer is a boat which is powered thanks to a mix of different renewable energies. So we have solar power, we have wind propulsion, and we have hydrogen. So it's that mix working together that allows us to navigate. With all of this technology, we're 100% autonomous, which means we don't really have any limits to how far we can go. And that's what's absolutely amazing about the technologies that we have on board. For example, this year we managed to cross the Atlantic. We were autonomous for 41 days and 5,000 nautical miles, which is quite astounding. It really proves that what we have on board and what we've been developing and are continuing to develop is probably one of the solutions to change maritime transport in the future.
What do you do about refueling?
To refuel Energy Observer, it's actually really simple. All we need is the sun and the wind and the hydrogen that we produce on board, thanks to both those energies.
You know what I would love? Could you use your camera to show me around the boat?
Sure, let me show you. So here you have our living space. We have the kitchen, and then we have 6 cabins, a shower and toilet. So this is really the area where the crew lives. There's 4 of us. And in the center here, you have our control system. So this is where we control all of the different renewable technologies we have on board and all of the engines, the battery packs. So this is basically what we call the brain of the ship. So we're on top of the central nacelle, which is the living area of the crew. You can see the 200 square meters of solar panels and the ocean wings. All of the technology is situated in our hulls. So here's our storage system, and below here you'd have the fuel cell, which is actually in service.
How does it feel when you're on the boat? I mean, can you tell that it's powered differently than traditional boats?
So I don't know if you can hear right now, there's a little bit of waves. When you're sailing on board Energy Observer, well, you don't really hear anything much than maybe the electric engines turning. So it's kind of like a, but that's about it.
How exactly are you demonstrating the alternative energy sources, and how are people reacting to them?
One thing that we do, which is slightly different to what we do on board, is that every stopover we've got a village, an exhibition village, which follows us, in which we can explain the boat, the expedition, and especially educate people about renewable energies and hydrogen.
How exactly are you able to use the Energy Observer to promote the next generation of energy network?
Energy Observer is basically a floating lab. We've tested quite a few different technologies that haven't worked for us, and we've implemented different ones or improved the ones that are still on board. And that's how we promote the different renewable energy sources that we have on board.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk today, and best of luck in your ongoing voyage. I hope that you eventually make it to LA so that we can meet in person, and maybe I can hitch a ride with you.
Fingers crossed. Bye.
So I've gotten to see a lot of different possibilities for how to utilize hydrogen in clean energy future, but there's still one thing missing: infrastructure. And that is why I find myself in a parking lot, safely distanced, talking to Craig.
Hi, thanks for joining us.
So tell me a little bit about this site.
So this is the site of what will be the world's largest 100% renewable hydrogen station.
And you've been working on this project for a while, right?
This site's been going on for about 4 years now, and Toyota's been developing fuel cell technology for nearly 3 decades.
Okay, so you need a lot of patience to invest in future projects like that. What gives you the confidence that this is the way to go?
That's a good question. So I really think hydrogen is the future for a carbon-free mobility solution. It's the only thing that really looks and feels like gasoline for customers, and that's really important. So you want to give people the same experience they've been used to for decades.
Well, thank you so much for giving me a glimpse into the future. I can't wait to visit here and see it when it's all built. Now I'm going to head back and call into headquarters. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Hey, Tamara, you still in LA?
Hey, George. Yes, I am indeed still in Los Angeles, and I wanted to give you a little bit of the view. Honestly, this trip feels a little bit like I've time traveled into the future.
How about that Mirai?
I had such a good time driving the Mirai. It was fantastic to have the opportunity to see hydrogen fuel cell technology up close and personal. We took a gorgeous drive, blue sky, the ocean, and all I could think about was that there was nothing coming out of this tailpipe except water. It made it really easy to see how this technology can definitely be a part of California's zero emissions goals for the future.
How about that big rig?
Remember when I pulled 1,000 pounds of bananas on one of our trips? Well, I think I've got a new record for you. 80,000 pounds. Yep, that's how much we were hauling when I was riding in the big rig. It was fantastic to get to see it in action, and we drove all around the Port of LA, San Pedro, Long Beach, and we talked about a bunch of different use cases. I learned a new word, drayage. Turns out that's when a shipping container comes off the ship and is taken by a truck to a local spot where it waits for the vehicle that's going to take it all around the country where it needs to go. Well, think about it. Those trucks are going back and forth all day long. That is a lot of emissions unless you have a zero emissions vehicle. It made me see how this technology can really be a crucial part of environmental equity as it cleans up the air for the local communities.
How about that energy observer?
Well, what I love about the boat is they have the same mission that we do, to expose people to the technologies that are really shaping our future. And it's so cool. They have the power to create hydrogen from seawater using solar power and an electrolyzer.
Nice work out there. I'll see you soon.